Can I call the member for Newtown?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today as the member for Newtown, a member of the Greens and a member of the New South Wales Parliament LGBTI cross-party working group to speak in strong support of this motion brought by the member for Coogee that publicly makes a long overdue apology to the 78ers, those people who participated in the first Mardi Gras in Sydney on June 24, 1978. And first and foremost, on behalf of the people of Newtown, on this Parliament and the Greens, let me say that I am truly sorry for the police brutality and violence that was inflicted on you. I wish to also acknowledge the 78ers in the chamber with us today, including those of the 78ers committee who have worked with us to get us to this point of making the apology here in this Parliament, and to two dear friends and Greens who were part of the first Mardi Gras all of those years ago in '78, Greens City of Sydney Councillor Irene Doubtney and former Greens Councillor for Wagga Wagga, Ray Goodlass. It is wonderful to have you in the chamber today. Sadly, many of the original 78ers and those who were supporters of an apology for the 78ers are no longer with us to receive this apology today. I hope that their family and friends will receive at least some comfort from the fact that this long overdue apology is taking place now. I would like to make reference to two of those people in particular, one who was not participating in the 78 events on that day, but I know was a strong supporter and drove for change, and the need for this apology was the Deputy Lord Mayor of Sydney, Robin Kemmis, who sadly passed away very tragically and recently. The other was a 78er Darug woman, Auntie Chris Burke, whose life was recently celebrated at an event at Carriage Works in the electorate of Newtown. It has taken literally a lifetime, my entire lifetime, for this apology to be forthcoming. And in an attempt to redress the significant delay in beginning this apology and this process of apologising, let me commit to you and to all of the 78ers here today, and all of those that have sadly passed before we were able to begin to right this wrong, and all of those who have suffered and continue to suffer at the hands of police violence and brutality, state-sanctioned homophobia, transphobia and discrimination, that this is a living apology. And that means that for as long as that I am in this place, as long as the Greens are in this place, we will continue to stand with you in your struggle, the struggle that was begun all those years ago for liberation, for equality, for freedom, and to right the wrongs and injustices inflicted on you by the state of New South Wales, the media, and the New South Wales Police. This apology acknowledges the wrongs perpetrated in 1978 by the New South Wales Police, and thus by implication the New South Wales Government, and following the disturbing and violent events, the wrongs that were perpetrated by the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age. Police brutality against peaceful protesters was at the heart of why we are apologising today. And so it is essential that we see that the New South Wales Police also take responsibility and apologise to the 78ers.
Is leave granted? Yes. Leave's granted.
It's a significant step today that we're issuing an apology from this Parliament, and while I recognise the comments made around the apology from the Herald yesterday, it is significant to see that they have also begun the process of apologising. It remains one responsible party that has not issued and taken that step yet, and that is the New South Wales Police. And I can commit to you that I will continue to work with you until we see the day where the New South Wales Police apologise. I've experienced firsthand the violence and intimidation of the New South Wales Police, but there is nothing that I have witnessed that could have even come close to the police brutality that I've heard and seen from the stories that have been told by the 78ers that were there that night. And I want to put just a couple of brief contributions from those people on the record, and I encourage everyone to go and look in much more detail at what occurred. Sandy Banks writes, New South Wales Police attacked our peaceful parade. Hundreds of police were on hand, identification numbers off, and ready to bash and thump the hundreds of lesbians and gays captured in Darlinghurst Road. We were terrified, and there was no visible route for escape. Steve Warren writes, the violence was not initiated by those who would later be known as the 78ers, but by an oppressive New South Wales police force who also interrupted a generally peaceful, fun-loving parade of celebration of who we are. Barbarella Kopinski said, "I witnessed the police lie in court as they said we were given 3 minutes to disperse, but really they gave us about 10 seconds and then rounded us up and surrounded us and started to beat many of the protesters. I was personally surrounded by about 10 cops when I was arrested, and one grabbed my breast and my arm and was roughed, though I was beaten like many others." Mark Gillespie writes, "The arriving police in numbers took advantage of the semi-darkness of the night, unleashing a reckless and ugly attack that shocked us." And Peter Murphy, who was 25 at the time, was thrown into a police van and taken to the police station. "I was singled out and bashed thoroughly. There were just 2 police present and only one of them beat me. He would have kept going, except the other guy finally said stop. So I was convulsing at the time he said stop. I thought I was going to die." Sally Colchin's account of the happenings of that night go into the detail of how police removed their badges, entrapped people on the street and engaged in seriously violent acts. But Sally's account also speaks of the strength and the solidarity and the determination of those that were there, not just on that night, but also in the subsequent court cases and actions that spoke out against the violations and the police brutality. And it is for that that we are truly grateful for your actions, not just on that night, but in your ongoing struggle to make sure that this police brutality could not continue. It is clear that there is a need in any apology to recognise the rights of the wrongs, but also to recognise the need for compensation and rehabilitation, and acknowledging that actually there needs to be guarantees against repetition. In making this apology, we need to ensure that this place never repeats the injustices of the past by allowing for policies or practices that further entrench homophobia, transphobia or discrimination in our society. We must make this a living apology by redoubling our efforts to remove laws that prevent full equality for the LGBTIQ community. I would never have imagined that I would have the opportunity to be part of something so significant as this apology to perhaps some of the most inspirational activists and social change makers that I have ever known and in my local history. And let me give you this commitment, the Greens commitment, that we will continue to work with you to make sure that this apology is a living apology, that this Parliament and this apology is just the beginning of righting the many wrongs inflicted on you, and realising that the vision that you started on that night back in June '78 to end laws that discriminate against people in the LGBTIQ community will be a struggle that we will stand with you forevermore. Thank you.